To review this right here, it's 10 problems. This is what will be coming up on your final exam in about 5-6 weeks. It says, solve the equation. That's what we're doing on basically all these is solve equations. So the first thing we look at is how many answers the equation has. Well, I got to look at the highest power that my x is to, and it's a second power. So that means there's two answers. Okay, now my strategy that I'm going to be using to solve the problem. Do I have any x's that are not? Remember, it's either set boxes or x squared equals and then x equals. So there is this x right here that is not to the second power on this 14 here. So since that's the case, I need to do my set boxes strategy. So set boxes. Okay, so we're set. The zero's there. The equation's equal to 0. Now, how many terms do I have? I have 2. So since I have 2, it's GCF, and then see if I have adopts, the difference of perfect squares. So I get those boxes set up. So remember, on a GCF, 3 things we look at is we check for the negative, if x is on both terms, and then the GCF calculator. Well, we don't need the negative because the 7's positive in the front. Now we have x to the second on this term and x to the first, so both the terms do have x's. So in the GCF, I put the x to the smallest power. And then I find the GCF for 7 and 14 on my GCF calculator. So I go 7, 14, and it gives me 7 as the GCF. Okay, so the GCF 7. So what do I have to do with that? I need to put 7x to the first out here, and then I need to go up in my expression and divide by 7x to the first. Okay, so 7 divided by 7 is 1, and then 2 minus 1 is 1, so 1x to the first. Then 14 divided by 7 is 2. And then these are both to the first, so we just cross those out. Okay, now the DOPS. Is the x to the second there? Remember what you're looking at, the second parentheses. And no, x to the second is not there. It's x to the first. So we need to ditch this box and just go up here and go F1. F2 equals 0. Get rid of the first powers, and then I'm ready to solve this. So 7x could equal 0. That's from F1. And then F2, 1x plus 2 could equal 0. So I dot my variables, circle them, and here I just need to go straight to the division step. And 0 divided by 7 is 0. Now in the other one, we subtract 2 from both sides. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And then we divide by 1, and negative 2 divided by 1 is still negative 2. So those are your two answers. Okay, my next problem. How many answers do we have? Well, we have x to the second power right there, and that would be a 1x to the second. So that means there's 2 answers to the problem. Now, what method do we have to use? Do we have an x that isn't to the second power? Yes, we do. See, I'm marking it in red. So if that's there, you're going to have to do the set boxes scenario. So we're set here. Okay, the zero's here. So how many terms? This time there are 3. So again, with 3 GCFT. Doesn't say fail, though, so we're not going to use this unless it says fail. So you're set. And then make your GCF chart or your box, and then my T table. So GCF, again, the same 3 things, the negative, the x, and the GCF. So again, we don't need negative because the 1 in the front's positive. We have x second, we have x to the first, but 72 doesn't contain x, so we don't do that. Then I check what 114 and 72 is for the GCF. and it appears that it is 1. So if it's just a plain old 1, we don't bother with that. Okay. So now I go A, B, C, and I find the A times C. Okay. I take positive 1 times negative 72. Whoops, my bad. And I got negative 72. Okay, so if I got a negative, it would be minus that I'm trying to do. And that minus is trying to get to positive 14. Okay, well, 1 and 72 can't do that. Now we'll divide 72 by 2, and that's 36. 36 minus 2 is 34, not 14. 72 divided by 3 is 24. 24 minus 3 is 21. Remember, I got to get 14. 72 divided by 4 is 18. So what's 18 minus 4? Well, that would be 14. So I have it, because 18 minus 4 is 14. Okay, 14's positive. That means our 18's positive for sure. And when I have a negative up here, the signs have got to be the opposite. Okay, so if we have plus 18, we put minus 4. Now your A, go where your A's at. Your A's 1x to the second. So when I make these 4 parentheses, I'm going to start rewriting it as 1x minus 4 and 1x plus 18. Now the GCF for 1 and 4 on this screen here would just be 1. So that will stay 1x minus 4. And the GCF for 1 and 18 would be 1, so that'll keep that at 1x plus 18. Okay, and we didn't have a G. If we have something here where my pencil's at, we drop it down, but there's nothing there, so I go F1, F2 equals 0, and now I solve. So factor 1, 1x minus 4 could equal 0. Factor 2, 1x plus 18 could equal 0. So I dot and circle. And I add 4, and that gives me 4. 1 times x equals 4. Divide by 1, and 4 divided by 1 is 4. There's my first answer. Then I minus 18. 0 minus 18 is negative 18. Then I divide by 1. Negative 18 divided by 1 keeps us at negative 18. Okay. All right, 2 down. Next problem. I have 3x to the second power minus 17x minus 28 equals 0. So again, I got x to the second, so there's 2 answers. Now, what am I going to do to get those 2 answers? That tells me here. Well, I also have this x here that isn't to the second, okay? So, again, we need to go with the set and boxes method. Boxes means you're factoring the expression on this side. So you're set, and now we take this side and factor. GCFT. Doesn't say fail, though. Same as the last problem. So the GCF, negative x GCF, those are the 3 things I got to analyze. So I don't have a negative in front of the 3. I have x the second, I have x the first, and I don't have x on 21, okay? And then I insert 3, 17, and 28 into my calculator. And I just got 1, so since I just got 1, without a negative, without an x, we're not going to do it. So I go A, B, C. Okay, so then I take positive 3 times negative 28. And that's negative 84. Okay, so I got negative 84, and that'd be a minus since I got a negative, and the minus needs to come to 17, which is negative. So 1 and 84. 84 minus 1 is not 17. Then divide by 2. 42 minus 2 is not 17. 3 and 28. 28 minus 3 is 25. Remember, that won't work. 4 and 21. 21 minus 4 is 17. So we have it. Now we got it. 24's got to take a negative, and I have a negative with the 84 product, so the signs have to be the opposite on the two factors. Okay, now that we found that, my a is 3x to the second. Okay, so when I start this, I go 3x plus 4 and 3x minus 21, and then I always make a second set. Okay, 3 and 4, what common factor, what's the highest common factor they share? It's just 1, okay? So I'll divide them by 1, but it's just going to stay the same. Okay, 3 and 21, what factor do they share? 3, okay? So we divide those by 3, and that's 1x minus 7. Okay, there is no GCF there, so I have my F1, my F2, and remember, it still equals 0. Okay, so 3 times x plus 4 could equal 0, and 1x minus 7 could equal 0. So I dot my x's, circle them. I minus 4. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. Then I divide by 3. Negative 4 divided by 3 is negative 1.3 repeating. And then we plus 7. 0 plus 7, 7. Then divide by 1, you'd still be at 7. So those are your two solutions there. Okay, number 4, I have 1x to the second power minus 5x plus 1 equals 0. So again, I'm going to take my green highlighter and point out the highest power. It's a 2, so that means there's 2 answers. Okay, then to determine my method, I'm going to take my red highlighter and try to find x's that would not be to the second power. Okay, there is one right there. So again, it's set boxes. Okay, so we're definitely set. Okay. And again, we have 3 terms, but I wrote you a little note here, so it'd be GCF, and then the table, but I told you something about the table. GCF is same way, negative x GCF. Okay, negative will not be needed, x will not be needed, then 1, 5, and 1, it's going to be 1, okay? So if it's just 1, it's not worth the time. Now, you go ABC, but I told you the table's going to fail, okay? So I put fail. If it's fail, we go to our quadratic formula. It's all right here for you too, okay? So, opposite of B, plus or minus the square root. Make your square root kind of high. B squared minus 4AC. B squared minus 4AC over 2A over 2A. Okay, so A is 1, B is negative 5, and C is positive 1. So to make your B opposite, you switch your negative 5 to a plus 5. Then you got B itself, so you need negative on that 5. Then 4A is 1, C is 1, then on bottom A is 1. Okay, so we got 5 plus or minus. We know 2 times 1 on the bottom's 2, so we're going to put that. And I add a second parentheses because I need to find out what the square root here is. So I go second, square root, fourth key up. We need 2 parentheses at the beginning. Negative 5, close it, raise it to the second power with the fourth key up, only don't hit second. Then minus, and then 4, 1, and 1. 4.58, okay, so cross that out and just put 4.58. And then we're about to get our 2 answers. So I take 5 and add plus 4.58, hit equals, and then divide. ANS means it takes that answer from the last screen by 2. 4.79 is my first answer. Okay, my second answer, I go 5, but now I'm not going to plus, I'm going to minus. Minus 4.58, hit equals, and then divide by 2, and that's 0.21. Okay, now on the next page, now you've got some parentheses, so we want to take a different approach here with the parentheses stuff. So there's two scenarios. Is it blocked or is it not blocked? Well, the exponent 2 is here, so that's blocked. Okay? So we're going to rewrite the equation with x to the second first. Okay? So just circle the parentheses, put your h to the second. H to the second, you have a 4 in front. You also have an 8 you need to add before you write equals 32. And then once that's been rewritten, you're going to write h to the second equals, followed by h equals, just what it says. And you also are going to need to make that table with the two equations. Okay, now to solve for h to the second, you dot and circle, and plus 8, so I'm going to minus 8. 32 minus 8 is 24. Okay. Then you need to divide by the 4 that is multiplied by h to the second. So I just divide by 4, divide by 4. And now h to the second, I undid both operations. So 24 divided by 4 is what h to the second equals. 24 divided by 4, and that's 6. Okay, now, what number times itself is 6? Well, as I'm looking through that diagonal, 6 is not there. So what I do is I just put a square root, and I'm going to do it on my calculator. So I go second, fourth key up, 6. I get 2.44. So on your table, that could, whenever we square root a number, it could be the positive or it could be the negative. Okay. And then I bring back the x, 1x minus 4. Put a 1 in front of your x. And then you'll have two answers. So I dot and circle, I add 4. And that's 6.44 when you add. Then divide by 1, you're still at 6.44. There's your first answer. Now dot your x, you're going to add 4. And we'll take negative 2.44 plus 4, 1.56. And then divide by your 1, and you're still 1.56. And so if you are blocked, you need to write h to the second, and get the h to the second by itself, and then find the square root of that. Okay, now the next one, I don't see the power. Okay, so that means I'm definitely not blocked. So it's rainbows. You can put a 1 there. 4 times 1x would be 4x, and then the minus sign. And 4 times 4 is 16, and then plus 8 equals 32. Then you dot your x and circle it. You're trying to get the x by itself. You undo plus or minus. You got two of them to undo. First, undo the plus 8 by minusing 8. But before you figure out that, you also got to add the 16. Okay. And what's that equal? 32 minus 8 plus 16 is 40. Then we divide by the 4 that's multiplied by the x. So I divide by 4, and there's my answer because it's x without a power. And 40 divided by 4 is 10. Okay, now the next one, you're back to not having parentheses, so let's go to the very first sheet. So again, I'm going to take my green highlighter and find my highest power is 2, so there's 2 answers. Now what method would we use? Well, I take my red highlighter and I'm looking for an x without a second power. I don't have one. So I don't do set boxes. I do x squared equals x equals. Put that right beside that too. So all you do here is you don't draw any boxes, you just dot and circle. Then you add the 2, and that 19 plus 2 is 21. Okay. Now, after that's been done, we have to divide by the number that's multiplied by the x, so 3. Okay, so x to the second equals 21 divided by 3. So what's 21 divided by 3? It's 7. Okay, so what number times itself is 7? Look through that diagonal. 7's not there. So what you do is you put a square root over the top of it, and you find that on your calculator. So second, fourth key up, 7, 2.64. And remember, your two answers are the positive and the negative. Because a number times itself, a negative times itself would also give you the positive. Okay, next one, we have x to the third power minus 6x to the second power minus 9x plus 54 is 0. So again, how many answers? Okay, so my green highlighter. Third power is the highest, so there's 3 answers. Okay, now, do we have any x's that are not to the third power? Yeah, here and here. So since I found some, I need to go back to my set boxes method. Okay, so you're set, definitely set. But you have 4 terms this time. So this is grouping and dots. So I make the big grouping box. And then I set up the parentheses I need to, parentheses plus parentheses. And then the same thing with little lines outside. And then finally, a line with a parentheses, and that's a line I'm drawing, and then set up a big line and put a little smaller parentheses right next to it. And then the dots box is just the 2 parentheses with the plus and the minus. Okay, so grouping. First we put 1x to the third minus 6x to the second, and then negative 9x plus 54. Okay, then I've got to divide. And the 3 things I check for, negative x GCF. Well, I don't need a negative here because the very first number is positive. Here the first number is negative, so you need to put negative there. And then we're done with that. Now x. Both of these have x's, smallest ones to the second. Both of these do not have x's, so we won't put an x there. Then I GCF, 1 and 6, that's 1. And then let's check 9 and 54, see what they say about that. And that is 9, okay? So negative 9. Then whatever I'm dividing by here goes into the line, because it should be the same thing. And whatever I'm dividing by here goes into the line here. Now I execute my division. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. Then for x, we take 3 minus 2, and that's 1. So x to the 1. Negative 6 divided by 1. Remember, that's a negative 6 is negative 6. So I put minus 6. And these have the same powers, so they're gone. Now, negative 9 divided by negative 9 is positive 1. There's an x. And then I take positive 54 divided by negative 9, and that's negative 6. So get rid of that first power, and you'll see that inside those parentheses, you have the exact same expression. So we put 1x minus 6 here. And then on this one, we put the 1x to the second minus 9. Now the dots comes from here, okay? And this is my F1 right there. You can just drop that down. This 1x minus 6, I'm just going to make a parentheses because that's my F1. Now for F2 and 3, we got to see if that's a dots. Well, is x to the second there? Sure it is, so that would be x, okay? Is the second number negative? Sure it is, 9 is. And then 1 and 9, remember the perfect squares go this way. 1 is here because that's 1, 1. 9, well here's 9, that's 3 times 3. So I rewrite that negative 9 as plus 3 times minus 3. And now I have my 3 factors, okay? I've got F2, F3 equals 0. Okay, so 1x minus 6 could equal 0. 1x plus 3 could equal 0. 1x minus 3 could equal 0. Okay, so I dot my x's. And you really just have to add and minus, because 0 plus 6 is 6. And if you divide 6 by 1, that's still 6. Minus 3, that's negative 3. And then divide by 1, you're still at negative 3. Then plus 3, 1 times x equals 3, divided by 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. Okay, then you got a couple story problems. Remember, keep in mind the fail note. A missile is launched from a 50-foot platform with a velocity of 400 feet per second. How long will it take the missile to touch the ground? So my two units that are highlighted are feet and seconds. So the time unit's the x and feet is y, because time is independent. Your height depends on the time. And then feet per second is 400. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, missile's launched, but it's going to come back down. So it's launched before 400 feet per second, you have 50 feet, and then it's going to land on the ground at 0 feet. Okay, so I make a pretty big box there because I use the gravity formula to write my equation. So gravity is negative 16, as always. And then my feet per second, 400. There's your x coefficient. And the starting height, 50, is your y. Now 50 feet is y, so the landing height, 0, takes the place of the y variable. And now I'm going to solve for x. So how many answers does x have? Well, second power means there would be 2. Now the method, are there any x's not to the second power? Yeah, right here. Okay, so since I found that, I marked that in red. It's got to be the set boxes. Okay, so you're set, and you got 3 terms. So it's GCFT, but this one fails, so we're going to go to the quadratic formula, but you do have to do your GCF first. I do want that done. Okay, again, the negative x GCF. Sorry about the smudges. Now, you're going to need a negative here because 16 is negative. So I put negative, 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 negative. X, we won't need that because 50 doesn't have it. Now, the GCF for 16, 450. That's why we have this little device here. I got 2. So negative 2 is the GCF. So we put a 2 there, put that in parentheses. And then negative 16 divided by negative 2 is 8. The x to the second stays, though, because you're not dividing by an x. 400 divided by negative 2 is negative 200. The x stays because I don't put an x down there. 50 divided by negative 2 is negative 25. And this is my A, B, and C. So I put fail up there, so that means it's a failure, and we go to our quadratic formula. So opposite of B, plus or minus the square root, B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. So A, B, and C, what do they equal? So A is 8. B is negative 200, and C is negative 25. So for the opposite of B, we're going to switch that to plus 200. Then B itself, negative 200. Then 4A, A is 8. Then C is negative 25. And then the A on the bottom is 8. So we got 200, we got plus minus. I don't know about the square root, but I do want to take 2 times 8 on the bottom. So 2 multiplied by 8, 16. Okay, square root time. Remember, you got to get 2 parentheses because 1 parentheses just comes up. Second, fourth key up, and then I need a second one. Then negative 200, close it. Second power is the same key as the square root. You just don't hit second. Subtract 4, 8, negative 25. Okay, I got 201.99. Actually, that's so close to 202. I'm going to put, now I'll stay with what I've been telling you. Okay. Then I do my math. I take 200 plus 201.99, hit equals, and then hit divide by 16. 25.12. Okay, and the plus is done. Then I go to my minus. So I go 200 minus 201.99, and then divide by 16. Negative 0.12. Okay, 25.12 is the number of seconds we have, because you want to take your highest answer. Okay, then my last problem. Got some of it set up for you because this is a geometrical problem. It's a shape. A garden's 30 by 20 feet. Okay, as you can see, put 30 and 20 in there, sorry. A border needs to be built around the walkway, as you can see. After it's built, the combined area is 816 square feet. How wide should our border be? So I got to figure out how wide these X's are. So it tells me the area is 816, and of course, how do you get an area of a rectangle is multiplying the length by the width. So I need to multiply the length by the width. So my length is across the bottom, that would be 2x plus 30. Then the width would be 2x plus 20, because there's 2x's being added. Okay, now start drawing your rainbows, because you need to multiply that. So distribute 2x to these two things. So I just drew two rainbows. Now I'm going to be multiplying 2x by 2x and by 20. Then I do the same thing with the 30, two rainbows from the 30. This is known as the FOIL method. Multiplying two non-like terms by two other non-like terms. Okay, now remember, it's important to know the x's are to the first power. Nothing, nothing, and 1, nothing at all. So 2 times 2 is 4, 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 times 20 is 40 with x to the first. 30 times 2 is 60 with x to the first. And 30 times 20 is 600. Okay, so line up your blanks so you can collect like terms appropriately. So x second, you got 4. X, 40 plus 60 is 100, and then 600. Okay, and that's your length times your width. So you just write 40x to the second plus 100x plus 600. Okay, sorry, hopefully you can fit it better than I did. So again, x to the second is your high dog, so you got two answers. Do you have any x's not to the second? Yep, right there. So you're going to have to set this and do boxes. Now, you're not set yet, though. So, because you have to have an equals 0 before you're set. So you line this up, equals 0. So for x second, you got 4. For x, you got 100. Okay, and then for the non-x's, you need to make the one over here positive because it's positive, and you switch it to minus. Remember, you switch the one over here because that's where you want your 0 to be. And that's negative 216. Okay. All right, now we can see what the three terms are. It doesn't say fail, so you're not going to use the table's going to work. Okay. So remember, GCF. Negative x GCF. Well, you don't need the negative because the 4 is positive. You don't need x because 216 does not contain that. And then I take 4, 100, and 216. Okay, I got 4. So 4 is the GCF. So 4 will be out here. Just a plain old 4, though. It doesn't need a negative or an x with it. So that's 1x to the second. That's 25x. Then I take negative 216 divided by 4, and I got negative 54. Okay, so ABC. So I multiply it. Remember, this isn't fail. Okay, so 1 times negative 54 is negative 54. So it's a negative, so it would be a minus, and we're trying to get to 25, which is plus. Well, it ain't 1 and 54, that's 53. How about 2? Okay, I got 27. What's 27 minus 2? Well, you go 26, 25. Yeah, 25. So what's that? Okay, plus 27, and negative up there means opposite. Okay, so my A is 1x to the second. It is not 4. This is my ABC. My A is 1, okay? So when we make our parentheses, we start with 1x minus 2 and 1x plus 27. Now the GCFs here are easy. You got 1 here, so it's just 1. Whenever 1's in the parentheses, it's going to be a 1. And same here. Now in the GCF box, I did factor out a 4, but since it doesn't have an x, okay, I don't need it to solve it. I do not put an F label on that. Just F1, F2. It's not F1 here because it doesn't have x. So 1x minus 2 equals 0. 1x plus 27 equals 0. So dot your x plus 2. And I get 2 as my first answer. Divide by 1 keeps you at 2. And the other one I dot and circle. Minus 27. That's negative 27. Divide by 1. And that's still negative 27. Now 2 is the higher answer. So there we have it. 2 feet is how wide that border is going to be.